SuperTalk Mississippi Media production.
Whether you're looking to start a career with no student loans or change careers to land one of the happiest jobs in the world, yep, that's construction, Build Mississippi can help. Visit buildmississippi.com to learn why a career in the trades deserves another look. Buildmississippi.com. Your future is waiting.
This is Gerard Gibert, and thank you for listening to MidDays here on SuperTalk Mississippi.
MidDays with Gerard Gibert is on the air. MidDays with Gerard Gibert is powered by C-Spire. Power your home or business with C-Spire Fiber. To learn more, visit supertalk.fm/C-Spire. C-Spire Fiber powers SuperTalk Mississippi. Get ready to go beyond the headlines and join a meaningful conversation with people from around the state. You're listening to MidDays with Gerard Gibert here on SuperTalk Mississippi.
Good morning, everyone, and welcome to MidDays, SuperTalk Mississippi. I'm your host, Gerard Gibert, along with Rhino in the Element Wealth Studio, guiding you through the middle of your day with facts, fodder, and fine music on this
Friday, y'all.
Somebody turn the air conditioner on. It got a little chillier, I should say. Down there at the Mississippi State Capitol, they go home for the weekend. Well, some of them are, at least. They had gabbled in and very swiftly adjourned. Be back in session on the Monday, but they left some unfinished business, shall we say. Rhino, it's likely to the chagrin of most of our audience that the old citizen-initiated ballot initiative is going to die a painful death for the fourth straight year. House Constitution Chairman Price Wallace, a Republican from Mendenhall, he told the press that the measure's going to die by Thursday's legislative deadline. That was yesterday. I was down there till about 7 p.m. The Senate, they stayed on the floor there for a while, still going at it when I left. He said the Senate would not be receptive to any ballot initiative proposed. They're not going to take it up on that end of the building, said Representative Wallace, so there's no sense in us fighting about it down here. We're not surprised, though, whatsoever. I'm not sure anything that's of tremendous value, and I don't want to downplay the stuff that looks like may go through. For example, I think we may get some meaningful DEI legislation. It's even crazy you have to do that. If you think about it, is it not crazy that you have to, put into a law? You can't hire people. You can't admit, let's say, into a public institution of higher learning for enrollment someone on the basis of, as you like to say, the melanin content of their skin. Why do we have to put that in the law? It's crazy. But that's what we're spending our time doing. And I'm not being critical. I'm just pointing out that it's crazy that we even have to deal with this. It's no different than having to codify into law that there are only two biological genders. But that's what we end up consuming our cycles with because there are crazy people around. Nobody thought we'd have to be dealing with this at the federal level as well. Geez, the first day President Trump was sworn into office there, he had to get back to the Oval Office and sign a series of executive orders, just ripping apart, rolling back all that crap Joe Biden put into place that focused on everything but quality and skills and capabilities and value proposition. No, that's secondary. Then we have to go get third parties to come in and shine the light on the nonsensical spending that we all suspected was going on, just didn't really have the details. And boy, is the left...
We had the details, we just didn't have the attention.
Well, that's true. You're right. We pointed out much of it here on the program, and we don't have like a massive research department. It was just painfully obvious, unfortunately.
We have a research department of 2.
That's it. So, and of course, the Democrats, they look silly, honestly. Their meltdowns, their little tirades, their little songs, and all that stuff.
Well, in fairness, they always look silly. They look stupid, foolish, and silly at this point.
So you mean the silliness has been enhanced, I would say. It's crazy. So I'm sorry to report that to you, folks. The ballot initiative gone. I'm wondering what's going to get through. Mobile sports betting, that's something else is incredibly popular. Is that going to make it? I don't know at this point. I really don't. Why is it so hard? I sit back and think about that. The direct sale of wine. Why is that so hard? What's the problem with that? Don't answer that. We know.
It's Friday. I'm going to be nice.
Education choice. The president, once again yesterday, said something about that as he works to totally dismantle. I think he's going to reimagine the Department of Education. I'm going to use one of the left's favorite words. Reimagine it. How about reimagine it into nothing? I think that's what. Defund the Department of Education. Let's
deconstruct.
That's right. That's another favorite word. Oh, gosh. I think that's coming. Now, we talked about it yesterday. I think he's decided to let the Congress handle this. I think that's a good idea. Instead of doing it through executive order, that'd make it more permanent in nature. Wouldn't allow a future president to reestablish the agency. But he's made it clear. He wants the states to enact sweeping school choice. But not here in Mississippi. Last I checked, we overwhelmingly supported the president. So can you help me reconcile that? We support him, but some of his key policy initiatives we reject. Help me out with that one. It's a shame. Now, I had, in fairness, had a very civil conversation a couple of days ago on our C Spire text line with Dave from Monticello. I believe, Dave, help me out. You used to be the mayor of the city. Or maybe it was another city. I'm not sure. But it was a civil conversation, but he's an opponent of school choice. And there's lots of fear-mongering around that issue, and I think there's lots of inaccurate and unfounded fear, is the way I would put it. But I'll say this. There are some good families, Rhino, with good children that are stuck. They're trapped. They're restricted in bad situations from a school perspective. Those are the kids that I want to help. Now, unfortunately, there's some situations where there are dysfunctional homes that are causing problems for kids, and I want to help them too. But honestly, you're limited. There's a limit to what you can do until we fix the fundamental problem in our society, certainly in Mississippi, which are these broken homes. And that's not to say that a single parent cannot succeed in raising a child. I want to be clear about that. There are lots of great single parents that work their rears off to care for their family financially, but also to raise their child properly. But, man, we have a lot of other situations where it's just unfortunate. Children are in bad circumstances. But those who truly do have the opportunity to thrive and grow and develop into extremely productive, law-abiding citizens are trapped in bad school situations. And that's because you have to just be honest about it. The selfishness of the school establishment. It's them first, children second. Did we not witness that during the COVID era with the teachers' unions, the crazy school boards all over the country? It was clear. The children are secondary. Primary is them. What did we dump? Like $200 billion or something of so-called COVID relief into the public schools? What happened to it? Where is it? Remember them pushing back? We're not going back until you upgrade the HVAC systems. Remember that? We've got to improve the airflow. Horse hockey. You're just lazy. You don't care about the kids. So we could do better. And I'm disappointed to see that we're not going to make progress. Representative Rob Robertson, his bill, which would have allowed a student in a public school to transfer to a private school, and the state portion of the money allocated to that student's education would follow them to offset to that amount the cost of tuition in a private school. That bill's over. The only one we have left is the public-to-public, Representative Jansen Owens' bill, that would allow a student in a public school to transfer to another public school without requiring the permission of their home school to release them, and the money would follow them, and the state would also set up a fund to defray the local cost associated with that, the additional local costs. That's still alive. It passed. It's headed down to the Senate in the procession, as Rhino likes to describe it. We'll see what happens in the Senate. We're coming right back in the Element Well studio. Leah Long with the National Federation of Independent Small Business at 10:35.
Fine.
This segment of Middays with Gerard Gibert is brought to you by Covington County Hospital in Collins, where your health matters.
Check it out. Let's do this.
The talk that keeps Mississippi talking. Middays with Gerard Gibert.
Let's get on with it.
On SuperTalk Mississippi.
Okay.
Frankie and the Knockouts?
Negative. That's not Sweetheart by Frankie and the Knockouts. That would be Frankie Valli in Greece.
Somebody mislabeled it.
Yeah. But, by the way, Frankie and the Knockouts, Sweetheart, that is a good tune.
It is.
Let's crank that up.
That's why I was going to play it. And
Okay.
started playing, and I'm like, well, too late now.
It is Valentine's Day. By the way, it's a big day for Carter Jewelers. Jay Lake, owner of Carter Jewelers, will be calling in at 10:50. We've also got Kelly Bennett, SuperTalk Mississippi News, giving us the roundup of all the news from across the Magnolia State at 11:20, and then Jay Lake will join us again at 11:50 and 12:50. And today on In a Mississippi Minute with Steve Azar, you'll hear an interview with former detective and author Steve Webster. In a Mississippi Minute with Steve Azar is presented by Superior Catfish. Remember, there's catfish, then there is Superior Catfish. It's U.S. farm-raised catfish with homegrown flavor. Ask for it by name at your favorite store or restaurant. Go to superiorcatfish.com for more info. Don't forget to sign up for the SuperTalk Mississippi News newsletter. It's very informative. It covers all the news, all the stories you want to keep up with. supertalk.fm/newsletter. So tell the folks about the old direct shipment of wine bill. Which one is that?
That would be Senate Bill 2145 from Senator Walter Michel.
Yep.
And it was amended on the floor, and they had a strike all, but it's still 50 pages. So that failed to pass 25-21. Then there was a motion to reconsider, and it was brought up for discussion this morning about 9:30 was reconsidered and was passed on a vote of 24-14.
Okay, so I'm looking at this bill. Help me out here. This looks like this deals with the manufacture of wine rather than the shipment of wine, the retail sales of wine. Is that what you're seeing? 2145 by Senator Michelle. The caption is an act to authorize a person who is the holder of a wine manufacturer's permit in this state or who is licensed or permitted outside of the state to engage in the activity of manufacturing wine. So I think we got something different going on there, right?
I'm checking.
Okay. I do think you're right, though. There is a bill that is alive in the Senate that would permit...
I can't find exactly where it is, but I'm pretty sure in the text of this bill, because it's 50 pages, it allows for direct shipping of wine to residents in the state by holders... what is it? I forget the name for it. It's in here somewhere.
Okay.
Direct something...
Direct wine shipper's permit?
Yes.
Okay. All right. So would that allow just an individual to ship wine into the state? Yeah, I'm looking at the more detailed description as well. And I think you're right. A direct wine shipper's permit from blah, blah, blah. It's legal stuff. We're looking at it. Hang in there with us.
Direct wine shippers shall ensure that all containers of wine sold and shipped directly to a resident in this state are conspicuously labeled with the words contains alcohol, signature of person age 21, all that kind of stuff.
Okay, yep.
Report to the department annually, maintain at least 3 years of all records, blah, 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 blah. But yeah, sell or ship any light wine or beer that is regulated under any alcoholic beverage other than wine, sell or ship more than 24 9-liter cases of wine annually to any one individual, or ship wine to an address in a county that has not voted in favor of coming out from under the tri-law.
You're right. So, the problem here is that the caption really doesn't include those other key provisions. But if you look at the more lengthy title, which is also always incorporated at the top of a bill, you're right. As I dive into that and scroll through, exactly right. Direct ship. So, that bill... let's see. What's the status? It passed in the Senate.
Yeah, it was reconsidered and passed.
Yeah, it passed. Okay. So, what's the process for transmitting bills down the hall that you informed us of yesterday?
Well, the T-Rex wearing the tuxedo and the top hat and the monocle has the golden staff as he leads the procession of the Zydeco band, who are all wearing the inflatable T-Rex costumes while roller skating. And behind that band, you've got I forgot the name of the dudes in the fezzes with the little bitty cars. They're doing loop-de-loops behind the Zydeco band.
I'm telling you, you and I are going to do that. We're going to go down there and do that. We got to. I love it. So
I have a hard time finding a T-Rex.
The old direct ship of wine still alive at this point. The T-Rex hyperventilating a bit as it transmits it down to the house. Oh, man. But I don't know that there are any House bills to this effect. I'm not sure what the status of those is.
I haven't seen any that are alive, no.
Okay. Well, and then we got the old tax bills, the Senate bill, the House bill. We'll see what happens there, whether or not they can come together and get something done. What do you think, guys? So here's the way I feel about that. I'm for tax cuts no matter what they are. If it's going to put more money into people's pocket, I'm for it.
Oh, there is one, House Bill 1175.
Direct ship of wine?
Yeah.
Okay. What's its status? Did it pass?
It passed the House with a vote of 93-14, received in the Senate, and not yet referred to committee.
Okay. But on the tax stuff, as you guys know at this point, we reviewed it. The House bill, which would phase out the income tax over a 10-year period, increases the sales tax, the general sales tax, by 1.5%, decreases the sales tax on groceries, ultimately combined local option and state by 3%, from 7 to 4 over a period of time, increases imposes a new sales tax on fuel of 5% of purchases. Those are the major provisions, 4 major sort of tax-oriented provisions. Over in the Senate, it's a reduction of the income tax rate, which is presently headed to 4% based on law passed in 2022. We'll get to that level in 2026. This would then take it down to 2.99% over 4 years in quarter-point increments, essentially. That's the first thing. No additional sales tax on general sales, a reduction of sales tax on groceries to 5% effective this year, July 1 of this year. And then an increase in the excise tax on fuel of 3 cents per year over 3 years, essentially doubling the current 18.4 cents excise tax on fuel. Those are the provisions of the Senate bill. That's the contrast, if you will, between the Senate and the House's version. The main feature, the main distinction, is that the House bill ultimately phases out, fully eliminates the income tax. The Senate bill stops short of that. That's the main distinction between those two bills. What I hope is that when they pass those bills down the hall through the ceremony that Rhino described, that they'll come together, mark those things up, and come up with something that gives tax relief to Mississippians, even though it may stop short of being the wants and desires of the respective houses. That's my hope at this point. We'll see where that goes. Also, a new tier for PERS. Was chatting and appreciate the exchange, if he's listening, with Daniel Sparks, Senator Daniel Sparks, this morning from up there in Appalachia in Mississippi, as I like to call it. He, the author of the bill that would create a new tier in the public employees retirement system. Tier 5 is how it would be styled. And it would, in fact, take some of the financial pressure off of the PERS system. Anyone that enters the system from a certain point forward, I believe next year is the effective date. I'll check that. But it's pretty soon. They enter the system, and they would not have an opportunity to participate in the same full defined benefit program as currently offered by PERS. Rather, they would participate in more of a hybrid plan, part PERS, part defined contribution plan like your standard 401k. And that would take some of the pressure off of the PERS system. We're stepping aside for a break. Leah Long with the National Federation of Independent Small Business is next.
Down and tell you all the things my woman loves to hear. I'll let you know how much it means just having you around.
Middays with Gerard Gibert.
Welcome to our shop
On SuperTalk Mississippi.
Okay, now you have a good one.
Welcome back, everyone. It's Middays from the Element Wealth Studio. It's our pleasure to welcome now Leah Long, Mississippi and Louisiana Director for the National Federation of Independent Small Business. Hey, Leah, good to see you again.
Hey, good. Thanks for having me on. It's been a hot minute, I think.
I think it has as well. So, here in the state of Mississippi, let's talk about that first. Any particular legislation that you're keeping an eye on that your members are interested in?
Of course, I think the biggest thing right now is tax reform package. You know, we're kind of just monitoring it right now. Obviously, we always support lowering the personal income tax rate because most small businesses, they end up, they pay that way. Their taxes pass through entities, LLCs. So, to keep competitive in the South, which obviously I do Louisiana too, and so we just had big tax reform there. Yeah. I think now is the time to do it in Mississippi. But for us, the devils are in the details. I know the House package is very different from the Senate package, so whatever's presented now, I think we're a little bit a ways away from what the final package is going to look like.
Yeah, we've got, of course, two different competitive measures, one from the House, one from the Senate. They're somewhat different. The Senate's bill, as you know, stops short of full elimination of the income tax, but it does reduce it rather substantially. Would be ultimately 25% from where it's headed next year to 4%. It would take it down to 2.99, roughly a 25% decrease. So that's good news there. Anything else in particular that you're taking a look at in Mississippi? What about school choice?
Yeah.
Do your members have any concerns about that? Do they get involved in that?
We actually don't get involved in that. We've balloted our members before, and that's just kind of, obviously school choice is very important, but that's kind of something we kind of stay out of. And, if it ever becomes a thing where it does directly affect industry, small business, we definitely will get involved in that. But right now we've stayed out of it. But our kind of big thing right now is workforce development, and there's also a bill, and we kind of sent out an action alert on to kind of let people know it's the retailer tax fairness bill. It's House Bill 879. And so we talked about swipe fees, I think, on here probably a year ago. Small businesses pay so much in credit card processing fees. Sometimes it's more than the rent that they pay in their building. So there's a bill filed right now that kind of adds to relief for some of the costs in the swipe processing fees. And so that's one thing I think a lot of people don't understand, that, 2-3% that you end up paying is a big deal at the end of the month. There's some, like I said, some businesses end up paying $30,000-$40,000 in swipe fees every month.
Yeah, I spoke to the individual who heads the Petroleum Marketers Association here in the state of Mississippi, Philip Chambly. I'm not sure if you know Philip or not. He and I serve on the Mississippi Lottery Corporation board together. Ran into him in the hall yesterday. He was talking about this. He said some of his members pay $150,000 a year in swipe fees.
Yeah, definitely. It's crazy. And, it's one of those things, vendors comp, I think we've kind of had the conversation with Speaker White, too, about vendors comp. You have to collect money for the government, every month. And so you can't do that for free. It's very unfair to allow that to happen for a business owner. So it's one of those things we would love to see this bill passed. I would love to see vendors comp increased. You got to give those small businesses something for doing their job of collecting the money for the government.
Yeah. Absolutely. What about the federal level? Leah, what are you tracking up there? Of course, taxes again, huh?
Taxes. And I know we've talked about it before, the Main Street Tax Act. That's our big push right now. It's set to expire in 2025. So if that deduction does expire, you're looking at a 20% increase right there in taxes. So that's kind of our biggest thing. Of course, during the previous administration, there was a lot of mandates put on business owners, beneficial ownership. We've been dealing with that in the court system. So we're kind of monitoring that, and you're just kind of looking hopeful for the next 4 years. We kind of talk about quality and, where our small businesses are. They're still excited to see what happens the next 4 years, but we're still facing the same things: labor shortages, workforce development. I know there's a bill, I don't know if you've heard much about it in Mississippi. I think there's a bill for tuition-free community colleges. I know that's kind of getting some traction a little bit. And, if it will help the workforce, we definitely need that. We need more skilled workers.
Yeah, and both Mississippi and Louisiana have some huge data center projects coming their way, which, of course, is going to require a whole bunch of skilled workers. And I think we have a good shot in our two states of really becoming more of a technology hub. And that's good news, but we've got to get our workforce ready.
Definitely. I love living in the South. So I tell everybody we should open businesses here, everyone needs to come here. And so I think that's one thing. If we do develop a better workforce environment and a skill set of employees, that I think we'll see more companies and more jobs happening here. Yeah. Even, you think about small business, being able to have more workers and that qualified, they can, reinvest in their businesses and even open up more. So, we always talk about small business, the fact that, you play many different roles in a small business. You're not just one job. So if we could have people like that would be good.
Leah, what about retail sales across the state, or just sales in general? Of course, you've got members who are more than just retailers. But just looking at sales tax collections here in Mississippi, fairly level, really no major change one way or another. How about in Louisiana, and what's the outlook?
Yeah, they're pretty level right now. You know, you're coming off, they say the first of the year is very hard for business owners because you're coming off the holidays.
Yeah.
So, you know, they're pretty level, pretty steady right now. So optimism for the small business, you know, everything's okay. They're a little bit better than they were, you know, 2 years ago. But I think you saw the December and the last Q4, the optimism was very high because they were excited to see what the next administration looks like. So we're kind of still on that path. You know, we're still dealing with a few labor issues, but it's better than it was 2 years ago. That's what I tell people. It's not going to change overnight, but we can hope it continues to get better.
And, you know, it's anecdotal, but yesterday I talked to two small business owners who are in the type of business that sees the Valentine's season spur their sales, and both reported very brisk sales, that better than last year, as a matter of fact. Is there kind of an air of optimism? Because consumer sentiment has been somewhat down the last few months.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it has been. You know, I think it's just people are getting back to normal, and, you know, I think the election took a lot of, you know, mental capacity of the people, and, you know, with the fact that we could be doing tax reform in Mississippi, those small businesses are excited.
Yeah.
You know, we're having big changes coming on, not only in the federal level, but to the state level, that I think people are looking forward to. You know, like I said, we're not sure what this tax package will happen, which one will come out of it, but we're hoping something's got to come out of it. Now is the time to do it, and I think business owners understand that too from their perspective.
Yeah, has there been kind of some improved optimism in their outlook just as a result of having a president that's more pro-business and looking to shred many of the regulations that are so costly to the business community?
Yeah, definitely. You know, they have been optimistic. The fact that this administration is interested in basically not putting their thumb on businesses and letting them operate. And I think that's a big thing. You know, those mandates are hard to keep up with, especially if you're a small business owner and you don't know the constant changes. I mean, we talked about, there was a contracting one. I think you and I talked about it last year. It went from a 3-point to the 5-point. Well, you're going to have to sit there and go through. Luckily that didn't work out, but, it's those things that make it, you know, we don't want to make it harder to own and operate a business in Mississippi or in America. So I think with this administration, they're going to try to make it easier, and that's definitely adding to the optimism. Healthcare
expense, the cost of the employer share of their employees' health insurance. All the analysts in that industry are predicting a fairly sharp increase in that. Are your members talking about that?
Yeah, insurance is a big thing for our members. You know, it adds to the cost of doing business, and especially being a small business owner, you want to offer a good compensation package. You want to offer health insurance, and if the premiums go up, it drives the cost, and it eats at your bottom line. It affects how much you can pay your employees. It affects how much you make at the end of the day. So that's one thing that we're definitely dealing with, and I think it's not even just, you know, it's a Louisiana, Mississippi thing. It's Louisiana. We always talk about insurance down here. So Mississippi thing, it's not just Mississippi. I think it's just in general right now.
National.
Insurance is out of control. National issue.
The state of Mississippi.
So it adds to it.
Yeah, the state of Mississippi, and I don't know much about the state of Louisiana, but our finances are in pretty good shape, but there's a lot of concerns about some additional spending that may result from the federal government cutting its amount of money that it allocates down to the states. Is that being talked about in Louisiana as well?
A little bit. You know, I like to say Mississippi is pretty more, it's more financially secure, I think. You know, something I'd love to see the legislature and the government do in Mississippi is they have cut back their spending. You know, they have shrunk government, and that's important, especially right now, tax reform. I mean, if we're going to do taxes, we need to shrink government too. So that's been kind of talked about in general. And, you know, it's one of those things, I think everyone's talking about it. The federal government is not a bailout, and, you know, your state government's also not a bailout. So at some point, you've got to find the middle there.
Yeah.
And if that means, you know, they're having to make up money somewhere else, they're going to have to do it. But if you do that, you need to think about the people in your state too.
No doubt. Leah Long, Mississippi and Louisiana Director for the National Federation of Independent Small Business, has been our guest. Thanks for coming on, Leah. Look forward to talking to you again soon.
Thank
you. Yep, appreciate it. We're coming right back,
thank
folks.
You.
We're coming right back with Jay Lake, the owner of Carter Jewelers. Stay with us.
This Valentine, covering the stories that matter most to Mississippians. Gerard Gibert, Middays with Gerard, SuperTalk Mississippi.
Welcome back, everyone. It's Middays from the Element Well studio. A little Frankie and the Knockouts. We got it right that time. Appreciate that, Rhino. We're pleased to welcome now Jay Lake, the owner of Carter Jewelers. What's going on there, Jay?
Hey, Gerard. I am Carter Jewelers, and we're downtown Jackson, 711 High Street, corner High and State, and we have a huge Valentine's sale. I told the employees, I said, mark everything down, 50% off all the jewelry. So we marked it down, and then we still have a lot of the bankruptcy jewelry, and I told them they can mark that down 70% or more if they find something that's not marked down already. And my buddy, he texted me and said, "Hey, you got anything for $48?" He sent me a picture of some earrings, and I was like, "Oh yeah, we do have some like that." And so he came in, and I found it was a brand name piece of. It was the same price, $48. And I was like, and you get the half a dozen free roses from Greenbrook Flowers or the Ivy Place. And then you get an additional discount on top of that. Plus, I put in a nice box for you, wooden box, leather, and gift wrap it. And then yesterday, Sherry was waiting on his customer, and she comes in, and Sherry had this 1-carat diamond earrings, and they were really pretty. And I was like, and it said $750 on there. I was like, $750 for over a carat? I was like, it must be priced. They must have made a mistake on that. And she was like Googling it and finding other jewelers, and they had them 3/4 carats for the same price. I was like, I was trying to talk her out of buying them. Honestly, I was worried. And then I asked her. I said, "Is that the right price?" She said, "Yeah, that's the right price." And you get the up to 30% off that price, 10 to 30% off, and the roses. So it's an amazing deal. And today's the last day till 6 o'clock for the sale. And but anyways, Gerard, I've been watching your show recently, the SuperTalk and your show, and really enjoyed it. And I had a question for you.
Sure.
If you don't mind, it's not jewelry related.
Sure.
It's something when I went to school, I learned about the theory of evolution, and but they never taught me any other theory. It was just that one theory, and now I have kids, and I'm seeing they have the same theory, and there's no other theory in there. And I was just curious, how is that legal not to have the other theory in the public schools like that?
Oh, that's a good question. I'm not honestly sure. Was there some legislation that you're talking about in particular that would prohibit, I guess, discussing any other theory of evolution? I don't know.
I don't know. That's what I was asking you. Maybe your listeners could answer the question. So yeah, and I was reading the theory of evolution, and it's got a lot of all kinds of holes in it. Act like it's not really.
Well, it's a theory. It's a theory.
And but why is the other theory not in there? That's what I was.
I mean, it's a theory. It's not established fact. I'm not sure what the other theories are, but as you well know, those standards are developed by the State Department of Education in conjunction, to some extent, with standards handed down by the Federal Department of Education. But if the president has his way, we're not going to have a Federal Department of Education anymore. He's in favor of transferring all of that control of the educational systems to the states and letting them conduct their state K through 12 and higher ed as they see fit.
Okay, well,
yeah.
I hope the other main theory was able to be put in there.
I'm not sure that's prohibited. I've never heard that there's a ban against just teaching or presenting other theories as to, I guess, how man came about to inhabit the earth. I don't know that there's anything that bans that, but now you got me curious about it. And Rhino and I will have to research that a little bit.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
Is it? So what else we got to talk about?
Well, you tell me. While we're talking politics, are you paying attention to the tax reform legislation that the House and Senate right across the street from you were talking about?
I've had a lot of the senators and the House of Representatives that come in and they act like they're tired and they've been working hard. But
you setting them straight on that, Jay?
They're happy at the house. I can promise you that. When they get home. But
I got you.
When their wife opens the present,
because they're your customers. I've been in there before. I've seen them in there shopping. You help a lot of them, don't you?
That's all I can do. But the tax reform, I'm not. What's going on with that?
Well, there's a move in the House of Representatives that would phase out the income tax. So I assume you operate as a small business where your income's passed through and you pay that tax personally, or the owners of your company pay that personally. So there would be no state income tax based on the House bill. Eventually, the Senate bill would reduce the income tax, and there'd be some other adjustments, like sales tax, for example. In the House bill, on the products you sell, the sales tax would go up by 1.5%. How do you feel about that? Would that be a problem for you? 1.5%.
Our customers would pay.
Yeah, 1.5%.
Right now they're paying 8%.
It'd go up to 9.5%. Yeah. Hold that thought. We got to go. We'll catch you in the next time we talk to you. Let you think about it. We're coming right back, folks, after Fox News and SuperTalk News.
Middays with Gerard Gibert is brought to you by the Mississippi Business Journal. Visit msbusinessjournal.com. Scott Coopwood, publisher. Get ready to go beyond the headlines and join a meaningful conversation with people from around the state. Hello? You're listening to Middays with Gerard Gibert here on SuperTalk Mississippi.
Welcome back, everyone. It's hour 2 of Middays. We are live in the Element Wealth studio on this
Friday, y'all.
All right, the Doge boys are at the IRS. They are auditing the auditors. Oh, that ought to be fun. What they going to find there?
No telling.
Oh, man. It's needed to be done a long time ago. Totally incompetent, honestly. And I think there's massive amount of waste and inefficiency.
But it's like we talked about yesterday, where if you don't use the technology available to you and you only think about the problem in terms of government solutions with government thinking, then the problem is dang near impossible if your only methods of fixing the problem are throwing money and people at it.
Because you see, Rhino, the people in government, they've got this wild, totally misguided idea that they are superior to the people not in government. So much so that they think they have the hubris to believe they could more effectively manage a $25 trillion economy better than markets. Literally, that's where we've been headed. Liz Warren is melting down over this reimagining of the Consumer Finance Protection Bureau. You're going to get hurt. Oh, my gosh. That is a worthless, wasted agency. She, of course, was the creator of it. We need government to protect the people. And every time they say that, you can bet your bottom dollar you're getting hosed. That's what's happening. I applaud this. This should have been gone a long time ago. And so it looks like it is on the, well, it's already been ordered to stop, right? The CFPB, I think the president through executive order already said, stop what you're doing there. We don't need that. That's standing in the way of business. Man, the small community banks in particular, they're afraid to scratch their nose that they might violate some craziness out of the CFPB, and we all pay for that cost. Enormous regulatory cost, more so than the taxes on the profit they produce. So this is all moving things in the right direction. I think it's good that they're setting their sights on IRS mismanagement. Of course, the people in the Capitol that have a D by their name think the IRS, they would place them above anything.
They almost hold them in holy reverence.
They do. They revere them, laud them, see them as serving an outsized, valuable purpose for the people of this good country. I think this is good.
Without the IRS, the federal government wouldn't be able to take so much of your money, and the Democrats wouldn't be able to skim so much off the top.
That is so true. That's the way the process works. Well, right now they're hunkered down trying to come up with a budget bill up there in Washington, in the House, in the Senate. The House, again, focused on one big, beautiful bill. In the Senate, they're being a little tentative on that. They're looking at two bills. Lindsey Graham is kind of leading that charge along with Leader John Thune.
I wouldn't trust Lindsey Graham farther than I could throw him.
I'm not happy about it. I'll tell you that. The blueprint in the House looks like it's poised to pass. Seems like they've got the votes there. The debt hawks in the Freedom Caucus were unhappy with Chairman Jody Arrington's, he chairs the Budget Committee, resolution that sets the floor for spending cuts at $1.5 trillion. They wanted $2 trillion. $2 trillion. By the way, it's over 10 years. This isn't in 1 year. Doing the math there, obviously, that's $150 billion a year or $200 billion a year. We're on track to have north of a $2 trillion deficit. Get serious. That's trimming around the edges. So we'll see what happens there. House Freedom Caucus Chairman Andy Harris from Maryland said Republican leadership has agreed to an amendment to the Budget Resolution Committee that, quote, shall, unquote, collectively seek at least $2 trillion in spending cuts, changing the language from being what he described as more concrete and less just merely aspirational. So here's what it means. If they can cut $2 trillion, which is what's needed, the folks that are writing the legislation to extend the Trump tax cuts have got the offsets they need to proceed. Send that to the Senate, pass it on a simple majority. If they don't get to that figure, well, then the ceiling for their tax cut fall, and we can't fully extend the current Trump tax cuts, meaning your taxes are going up. That's the bottom line of where we are right now. So if they get to $2 trillion, everything can be extended as is. What it does mean, however, just getting to $2 trillion, which is turning out to be a tall order, is that the president's wish to exempt taxes on tips, overtime, Social Security would not be possible to pass through basic reconciliation, which means you'd have to have some Democrats in the Senate, and you know as well as I do that ain't happening. They're not going to support this. So that's the way the old sausage is being made right now. Meantime, over in the Senate, they're totally focused on energy and immigration in the first budget bill, and they have announced they will take up tax cuts in the future. I believe that is a huge mistake, and it puts the entire nation at risk of falling into calendar year 26 without the current tax structure being in place, meaning we would revert to the tax structure pre the Trump tax cuts. What does that mean to you? It means your taxes are going up. It's bad. So, and it also means likely that there would be a deleterious effect on our economy at a macro level, and that would likely result in driving losses at the ballot box in the midterms of 26, which means loss of the House for the Republicans and loss of the Senate. And at that point, all bets are off. That's not what we need. So Come on, guys. Get it together up there. Back here at home. Let's see what's going on. Mo says, Gerard, gut feeling on the tax bills. There will be a compromise leaning heavily towards the Senate plan or no tax cuts this year. I don't think. Here's the way I see it, Mose. It's a good question, and I've thought about this, and I've talked to some folks down at the Capitol to kind of get their take as well. And I've expressed to them, Mose, don't let purity and perfect stand in the way of getting something good done. You know, when the bill passed in 22, it fell short of what I wanted to see, and I began to describe it as a down payment on moving towards full elimination of the income tax. That's still the goal that I have, and I know it's the goal of the House, the Speaker, many in the House, and the Governor, not so much in the Senate, and they have legitimate concerns about being able to pay our bills if we fully eliminate the income tax, and I respect that. I've spoken to Senator Josh Harkins extensively, including last night, about this, and I know where he stands, and I'm respectful of his position. I don't think the Senate, Mose, is going to bend on anything that would first increase general sales taxes. I am quite convinced that the membership in the Senate won't vote for that. In fact, I can tell you that was in the original Senate plan. The original Senate plan would have been to increase the sales tax less than the House did, say 0.75% as opposed to 1.5%, and then cut income taxes even further as a result of that structure. But they couldn't get the votes to do that. So I would say any attempt to increase the general sales tax in the Senate is DOA, and that makes it virtually impossible. Well, it does. It makes it impossible to fully eliminate the income tax just from a mathematic perspective. So I don't see much bending there, honestly. I just don't see any increase in the general sales tax, which is needed to give, again, more room for more reduction of the income tax. And then there's the sales tax on groceries. They're both pretty close on that. I mean, minor differences there, except the Senate's plan would go into effect immediately. The House plan phases in. And then the increase in fuel taxes. The Senate wants excise. The House wants a sales tax. The House increases sales tax a little more. We're coming right back in the Element Well studio with Kelly Bennett.
The talk that keeps Mississippi talking.
We're rolling. Hit it. Go. Play it.
Middays with Gerard Gibert on SuperTalk Mississippi.
Welcome back, everyone. It's Middays from the Element Well studio. We're pleased to welcome now Kelly Bennett, multimedia journalist, SuperTalk Mississippi News.
Morning, guys. Since it's Valentine's Day and you guys have been playing this great bumper music, I thought I would introduce you to my favorite Valentine's song. You ready?
Yeah. Got it.
Love stinks.
All right, that's for all the single ladies on Valentine's Day. Like I said.
That is so awesome. I love it. Love stinks. That's great. All right. Well, you guys have been pretty busy covering all that stuff, hadn't you there, Kelly? As the legislature in full swing, they're just dishing it out to us, aren't they, for us to cover and analyze. What's on your mind?
There really have been. I mean, there's so much action going on, and it's hard to keep track because in the afternoon, you're writing up your news stories and you think you've got one thing going on, and then the next day you find out legislators were meeting in committee and doing things you aren't familiar with yet. So that's bound to happen as we go through the legislative session. But there was a little bit of fireworks this week, and I think the social media firestorm warrants some coverage of this story. So the Senate decided Tuesday afternoon to approve a measure that would bring no excuse early voting to the Magnolia State. Well, it didn't take long for Republican Governor Tate Reeves to fire away at the legislation, posting on social media that the bill's author, Republican Jeremy England, is, quote, the MVP for Democrats. Internet insults aside, England told us that the bipartisan bill is really what's best for the state.
The name calling or any of that doesn't really matter. Governor Reeves is a friend of mine. You know, of course, maybe we disagree on this, and I do disagree with him on this. But 47 other states do it. We know what we're doing. We've got a very limited way to open this up to Mississippians. I don't think that it's accurate to say that this is a Democrat issue.
Reeves believes that this would lead to more voter fraud. The National Republican Party disagrees. They actually encouraged people to vote early during the most recent presidential election. Now, under England's measure, which does need House approval, Mississippians would be given 15 days before an election to cast a ballot early. And to do so, they wouldn't need any of these reasons that you have to give for absentee or mail-in voting right now. So. Yeah. We'll see what happens there.
Yeah, it's been really interesting to watch the sparring in the social media universe between the senator and the governor.
Well, it's not just that. You can look on Twitter, and Doge is telling you every day exactly what they're doing, where they're finding waste, fraud, and abuse, and where they're cutting it. And they've got the numbers. I mean, they're putting up the receipts.
Yeah.
And you can really find that with our state legislators as well. All that stuff it's online.
Yeah, that's right. It truly is. And, Senator Joel Carter went to the floor yesterday and offered some words to the members in the Senate, just really imploring all of our elected leaders to just be more respectful, essentially. He did a pretty good job, I thought, standing up and just highlighting what's going on there. There's disagreement. I think there always is going to be, but we could handle that in a respectful and courteous manner. And he sounded like he stood up for his colleague there, Jeremy England, in the Senate in those remarks. Little speech on the floor. That was
I'm sure they'll work it out. And even England said, look, Reeves and I are friends. It's not a big deal. These things happen. Tensions run high.
That's right.
And that's because they care. I think if our legislators didn't care, it would never get that heated.
Yeah, I think that's right. There is there are passions on both sides, and sometimes that when there's a disagreement, it can devolve into the mudslinging a bit. That's just part of the political realm. Tell us about...
Yeah, another big thing.
Go ahead.
Can I give everybody a heads up on the fact that, because everybody I know has a cold right now, and most people are blaming allergies. Several Mississippi schools were forced to close in recent weeks due to large outbreaks of flu and other illnesses. So we found out this week flu cases have actually surged to their highest level in over a year in Mississippi. And according to Therese Crawley with Fox News, the flu is actually hitting the entire U.S. hard this year.
It's the most intense flu activity in 15 years, measured by visits to the doctor's office for flu-like symptoms. CDC reports 43 states reporting high or very high flu activity last week. Some 24 million flu cases this season, and it's not to be toyed with. Over 300,000 hospitalizations, 13,000 deaths. Flu season traditionally peaks in February, and this season, don't be surprised if it lasts a week. It's mostly flu A with less RSV. Flu B was largely eliminated in 2020, squeezed out by COVID. 44% of adults got the flu shot this winter, but a big drop in kids' shots. This year's flu shot is considered a good flu A match.
So go to the doctor. It's probably not allergies. It's probably flu.
Yeah, it is widespread, no doubt about it. What else you got going on?
Well, we could talk about the Tim Tebow Act, which will be pretty exciting for a lot of parents across Mississippi. Homeschooled kids could be eligible to play public sports and join in other extracurricular activities like band. We've got House Bill 1617, which is referred to as the Tim Tebow Act. It aims to provide homeschooled students access to these extracurricular activities. That's not just band and it's not just sports. There are a lot of other activities like, the chess club. Do we still have the audio-visual club in schools? Maybe. I don't know. It's been a long time since I went to high school. But anyway, according to Representative Jansen Owen, they did address concerns, which were the number one concerns they were hearing about academic standards.
Well, the biggest drawback that I have heard was the academic issues, the unfairness of holding the public school students to those academic standards that our student athletes are held to, and not being able to hold the homeschoolers to similar academic standards.
Now, I got pretty excited, found out that we had another big lottery winner. I do buy tickets, so it would be nice if this was me every once in a while.
Yeah.
But it
big
hasn't
time
happened
winner
for me. But anyway.
Tell us
just
about
a couple of days. Yeah. Just a couple of days after the largest Powerball jackpot hit in Mississippi, another lucky player has amassed millions in winnings. Wednesday, a Powerball ticket purchased in Mendenhall won a lucky unidentified Mississippian $2 million. This comes on the heels of an anonymous pedal player striking gold, earning $10 million after matching all 5 double play white balls plus the double play Powerball during Monday night's Powerball drawing. Now, the ticket purchased in Wednesday night's drawing matched all 5 white ball numbers, securing the $1 million win. And here's how they doubled it. Because they added the dollar power play option. The multiplier for the drawing was 2, so the prize doubled to $2 million for $1.
Wow,
doubled his prize.
That's pretty good. That's pretty strong. So maybe one day we'll get somebody to win the big old multi-state prize. How cool would that be? I'd love to see that.
I know I'm being really selfish today, right?
Oh, man.
I also wanted to mention this, Gerard, because I thought it was really beautiful.
Yeah.
Senator Cindy Hyde-Smith honoring the life of Paul Gallo on the floor of the U.S. Senate Thursday morning. Of course, our friend Paul Gallo passed away at the age of 77 in January, leaving behind a legacy of more than 50 years on the air as one of the most influential talk radio hosts in state history. And all of us here at the SuperTalk family are really going to miss him. But here's what Hyde-Smith had to say.
My state mourns Paul. Paul was far more than just a broadcaster. If there's anyone who can be considered a Mississippi icon, it's him. He earned that status over decades as a steady voice for news and opinion in my state. Paul was the son of the Mississippi Delta, was a true believer in Mississippi. He recognized its potential and its strengths, but he wasn't afraid to address its challenges head on. He shaped the conversations that mattered to the people of Mississippi, no matter where they lived across the state.
Yeah, it's awesome. So good. So appropriate that he was recognized.
That was a beautiful tribute.
It was so appropriate that he was recognized and lauded there on the floor of the United States Senate, man. No doubt about it. I know he and Senator Hyde-Smith had a good working relationship. She always enjoyed being on her show. They always had great interviews. He will certainly be missed. An icon for sure.
Definitely.
Appreciate it, Kelly. Thanks.
Thanks, y'all. Have a great weekend.
You too. Coming right back in the Element Well studio.
Everybody ready?
I'm ready. Ready here.
Middays with Gerard Gibert on SuperTalk Mississippi.
I hadn't a care. Fooling around, hitting the town, growing my hair. You came along and stole my heart when you entered my life. Ooh, babe, you got what it takes, so I made you my wife. Since then, I never look back. It's almost like living a dream. And ooh, I love you. You came along from...
Welcome back, everyone. That's from the All Hit Request line. Climax Blues Band. Okay, I'm going to guess 1982. Three?
Older.
Oh, shoot. 79?
Recorded at 79, released in 80, charted in 81.
Okay. I was close. I was in the neighborhood. Yeah. Man, just reading the story about a death row inmate. You see this? Who was executed in Texas. 46 years old. He admitted to killing 2 teenage dancers at a club and said he had found God during his 2 decades in prison. Said, I had no right to take your loved ones from you. This is him addressing the families. That one day you find it in your hearts to forgive me for those actions. Then, of course, they strapped him to the death chamber gurney. He looked at the relatives of the victims, saw them through a window a few feet away, said, no amount of my apologies will ever return them to you. And right as he was about to expire, he said, I'm finished. And the drugs began to pour into his body, and he mouthed once again, I'm sorry. Well, interesting. That's kind of spooky, kind of harrowing, honestly, to even think about. Interesting story, for sure. More about the Doge organization's examination of all corners of government, uncovering just massive levels of waste. As you said, we already knew this, but finally somebody is focusing on it and exposing it, and they're doing it in a methodical, structured manner. It's not just, hey, just give me a report of all the waste. Now, what I hope we get out of this is more than just a manifest of all the waste and the various schemes that are perpetrated for these improper payments. Just a list of that is of no value other than if we act upon it and implement solutions to mitigate. And I've said many times that really the only way you can effectively address all this improper spending and waste is through automation. That's why it makes total sense to have people from the technology world involved in this undertaking, and Elon Musk and his team are a fantastic selection for that. And the Democrats, of course, Rhino, are saying, why do we have technology people doing this? We need accountants.
Like I said, they want to throw people in money.
Unbelievable. And they don't seem to understand, and as you like to say, well, that requires a little logic, a little elbow grease from your brain to think through it. It's because they understand how to utilize the tools to mine and scrub and examine electronically these massive amount of information where all these details are stored that show and serve as the record of all of this waste and improper payments. But again, We need solutions. Now, yesterday I mentioned that the CEO of LexisNexis Government Risk Solutions, I think it's the name of that division within the larger LexisNexis organization, he said just some more robust front-end verification would go a long way towards making sure we don't set people up for money they ain't supposed to get. Social Security is probably a great example of that, the Social Security program, the payment system, because it's all based on Social Security number. And over the last few years, there's been an enormous amount of cyber attack incidents where the target, the goal, was to capture Social Security numbers. Those fall into the hands of bad actors, and then they use that to file for unemployment benefits, even Social Security benefits, even tax returns. Well, they'll produce fictitious returns. They'll electronically file those. The return shows that a credit of some sort of due, a payment is due back to the taxpayer, and the IRS just sends them a check. That's going on to the tune of multiple billions every year. And again, those kinds of situations could be effectively addressed with more robust technology. Paying dead people. That's another example. That's why IT people are valuable in this endeavor, because they're able to create queries and systems and algorithms and scrub all this data and say, hey, look, I found the Social Security number in the Social Security payment system. Also found them in the death rolls over here. That might be a problem. That's not what accountants do. Now, when you present that to accountants, they'll look at it and say, yep, you shouldn't have paid them. That's what they'll do. No disrespect to accountants. I'm just saying that it is appropriate to have, as far as this part of the overall exercise, technology professionals involved in mining this trove of information that we can use. And again, let's do something actionable. What I hope is that Musk and his team, they're creators, they're inventors, they're innovators, they're problem solvers. I hope they come back with a report of a presentation of recommendations of how to mitigate, how to address, how to stop and block all of this fraud. It is massive. It's almost so massive, Rhino, it's like a joke. Oh, yeah, that's easy. You just want a Social Security payment, a Medicare payment, a grant, you name it. Oh, it's nothing to it. You just do this, boom. You know, I guarantee you, there's information floating around on the dark web right now that will tell, right, bad people how they can crack these systems and get money. You think that's... I
don't even think it's on the dark web.
It just may be out in the open.
Oh, yeah. It may be on an obscure website, but
yeah.
you don't have to even have a Tor browser to get to that.
Right. That's why it's so widespread. So the good news is that from an efficiency perspective, our systems are electronic. The bad news is they're ancient. They're ancient. And before we had the internet and we had all of these tools that enable the bad guys to penetrate these systems and steal money, this wasn't a problem. But it is now. So you got to fight the nefarious electronic activity with more robust electronic digital solutions that guard against that and secure and protect against those intrusions. That's what the private sector does every day, every single day. If the private sector had the weak security and authentication and verification processes that the federal government does, every dang company in America would be getting stolen blind and bankrupt. That's just a fact. But because it's the government, and the way we solve that is, I don't know, just borrow more money. Isn't that right? We just borrow more money. Look the other way. Yeah. Yeah, that's right. People, too. Throw more people at it. That's what we need. 80,000 more IRS agents. That'll fix it. Yeah, that's exactly right. So I know I'm on a rant about that, but I'm tired of these Democrats saying, well, these are just the wrong people to be doing this. We need blah, blah, blah. No, you really don't have any interest of gaining any control and ending the waste and the fraud and the abuse. Would you agree? They don't have any interest in that.
I would add that the Democrats are the wrong people to be leading any country, let alone the greatest in the world.
I tend to agree with you there, man. We got lots of text here. I will get to them, I promise you. Please stay with us. We've got Jay Lake, owner of Carter Jewelers, coming up next.
This Valentine's Middays with Gerard.
Good for America. Good for fans of justice and truth. Good for us.
SuperTalk Mississippi.
This is what we stand for.
I'm so in love with you. Whatever you want to do is all right with me.
Welcome back, everyone. It's Middays from the Element Well studio. We've got the owner of Carter Jewelers, Jay Lake, on the location. Jay, what's it like today? It's Valentine's, man. You must have people streaming in there, making their selections. You're offering lots of good deals. Tell us about it.
Oh, yeah. We're here till 6 o'clock at Carter Jewelers. And thanks for having us on the show.
Yeah.
We are at 711 High Street, downtown Jackson. Carter Jewelers, corner of High and State. And like I was telling you earlier, I told everybody, all the employees, I said, just go ahead and mark everything down half off. Our name brand and regular merchandise, jewelry. And then we have all the bankruptcy jewelry, all natural diamonds, engagement rings, pendants, bracelets, earrings. Mark them down 70% off or more. So, because we have so much pieces, I didn't have time to do it all myself. And I had a guy. He found a $48 earring he got for his wife, and it came with free roses, nice box, wood, leather, and gift wrap. $48, and we gave him a 10 to 30% discount off that. And this is just yesterday, and it was better than the piece he found on the website. So we're beating the website prices. Someone came in yesterday. We're looking for some diamond earrings, and they found one online, 3/4 carat, same price as ours was over a carat, and I thought it was the wrong price. I was like, this can't be right, I'm like, hold on. But then if she still got the 10% off that or the 30% off, I'm not sure what she got, but we took care of her, and the free roses from Greenbrook Flowers are the Ivy Place in Vicksburg. So we are in Vicksburg, Pemberton Boulevard over there. I forgot to mention that earlier. Ginger and crew, they'll take care of you over there as well, and they have a lot of pretty gift wraps and a lot of pretty women over there to help you. But anyways, you asked me a question earlier, and I was talking to Michelle and everybody about it.
Yeah.
And Gary here, and well, my answer is what's best for the country, for Mississippi, is what I would want to do. Whatever, do your research, find out. I'm like, who else has done this? Does it benefit the state, the country? It might make a tax increase for our store. Personally, I'll say it's not the best for our store. They probably might want to go online and shop for a lower tax break. But if it's best for the country, and do research, see what other countries have done, and try to do what's the best for everybody. That's what I would do if I was in the government.
I got you. Sure. Well, we certainly hope our government is always doing what's in the best interest of our state and our nation. Sometimes they get into some controversial topics when they're negotiating these bills and working to pass laws. We'll see where this goes, but looks like there is an appetite, at least in our legislature, to overall reduce our tax burden through these various provisions. We'll see what happens for sure.
And what do you think is the best for that?
Well, I've always been a fan of full elimination of the income tax. I think the tax on work is unproductive and serves kind of as a disincentive to working. But I also understand that the state has to pay its bills and it needs revenue to do so. And so the effort by the House is to fully eliminate the income tax and offset that somewhat by an increase in sales taxes. And that would relegate the state to only having one major source of revenue to fund general fund services, and that would be sales taxes. So right now it's sales taxes and income taxes, and if we eliminated the income tax, we would only have sales taxes. So it would rely on folks consuming, buying retail goods and services to pay sales taxes to essentially fund the government. So it's a bit of a risk, and that's why they're phasing that in over 10 years. But there's a piece of that sales tax, Jay, that like your customers come in and they pay that 8%. You know, the city of Jackson has a special 1% sales tax because you're in the city of Jackson. All of that goes to the city of Jackson. And that was authorized by the legislature. A city has to request that. But of the,
I remember that.
Yeah, but of the 7%, 18.5% of that 7% goes back to the city. So in the case of sales made there in your store, 18.5% of that 7% goes back to the city of Jackson. That's a major source of funding they use to just to operate the city. And so under this plan, the House says they would end that diversion practice, but they would allow the city to tack on another 1.5%, and they would keep all of that. And ending the diversion is the way they would offset the elimination of the income tax. So it gets a little wonky there, but I'm with you. I think that's a great answer. Let's do whatever is in the best interest.
Is Tennessee already doing that now, or?
Yeah, Tennessee has an average tax rate of 9.5%. See, they levy taxes at the county and the city level. We only have 2 cities in the state of Mississippi that have an additional tax, Jackson and Tupelo at this point.
Okay, is it doing good for them? They don't have an income tax, and that's how they're able to do it. Okay, it's the same sort of model we're thinking about here. But we got to go now. We're going to talk to you in about an hour. Jay Lake, owner of Carter Jewelers, right. Get on down there and make your purchases. It's Valentine's Day. Fox News, Super Talk News is next.
And now, another hour of the talk that keeps Mississippi talking. Middays with Gerard Gibert.
Begin your transition now.
Now on SuperTalk Mississippi.
Welcome back, everyone. It's hour 3, the afternoon portion of the program. It's Middays. We are live from the Element Wealth studio on this
Friday, y'all.
All right, to some of the text on the C Spire text line. That's 601-879-4395. What if the school problem is the way parents vote? Well, I'm not sure what they mean by the school problem there, Rhino. What's going on?
Well, if we can't seem to get school choice through, then the people that keep voting for the members of the legislature that don't promote school choice would be voting against their own interest if they are in favor of school choice.
I see. And of course, you could offer that same analysis on all these other issues as well. The ballot initiative is one that I think is quite popular among the people, but we can't seem to get that across the finish line. 4 years in a row, unable to do it. Mobile sports betting. I think that's fairly popular. It's not dead, right? That's popular. Not dead, but we're going to wait and see the outcome in the Senate.
I guarantee you there are far more people in favor of online sports betting and mobile sports betting.
Correct.
Than any amount of people that have showed up to talk to the legislators against it.
The same thing is true with respect to school choice. That polls in the green. That polls fairly positively above the 50% mark. The majority of people in the state want choice. Mike from Columbus says, Biden signs with Hollywood Talent Agency. What's he going to play? Weekend at Bernie's, too. That was a long time ago. That's right. It
had to be 3.
That's right. I think it'd have to be 3.
Or maybe 4. Maybe they made a third one.
Yeah.
That was the era of sequels.
Whatever Delbert wants, Delbert gets. That was from earlier this morning, says Bub in Starkville. He said on this show many times he will not support codifying income tax elimination. And again, I know you sent that in earlier this morning, Bubba, but it's still relevant. It's more than just him. That there's senators that are queasy about this as well, I can assure you. It's not just him that have concerns about full elimination of the income tax. We have imposters in the Mississippi legislature, he goes on to say, led by Delbert the Democrat. That's why we can't pass universal school choice. And I hear you. But again, I point out, we can't get it through the House either, just so you'll know. It died once again. We didn't even have a bill this year, Rhino, that would implemented universal school choice. We had, I guess, the bill that had the most school choice substance in it was House Bill 1433, and yesterday Representative Rob Robertson says, yep, don't have the votes, can't get that one out. And it would have allowed public-to-public and some limited form of public-to-private choice transfer with the state money following the student to their school of choice. So we're not even close to universal school choice, as has been enacted in the surrounding states. We are lagging in that department. And it's, again, couldn't get that through the House either. That is done. The only, really, 2 bills remaining with respect to school choice of any substance, and the first one is Jansen Owens' bill, represented from the Hattiesburg area, and that would allow public-to-public transfer where the homeschool could not block the transfer. The money would follow the student. And then the other one would expand the charter school program a little bit. Right now, they can only locate in D or F districts. We only have 3, as we've talked about numerous times on the show. But Representative Rob Robertson's bill, I believe it's 1432 on the House side, would allow a charter school to establish in a district if it had been graded a D or an F in the prior 5 years. So that opens it up a little bit. Why should the money follow them to private schools? Well, I guess I would ask the question, why should the government spend money on any private, external, third-party providers of goods or services? This is an institution that provides education services. Makes sense to me that the government would utilize public funds to pay a third-party, external, private entity to educate our children. I consider those roughly equivalent. But the most important aspect of that is because, again, as I pointed out earlier in the program, many good students in good family environments have students that are being held back. They're restricted. They're trapped in bad settings educationally, and they seek a way out so that their full potential can be realized and developed. And allowing the state money that is used to fund their public education to follow them to another setting, such as a private school, is just a really extending more freedom and increasing competition, which should increase the quality of those poor-performing public schools. If they're in a high-performing public school, it'd be hard to imagine they even want out. This is really designed to give those trapped in a non-optimum setting to choose one that would be more appropriate, more suited to allow them to thrive and fully develop. And that's the purpose of the public to private. By the way, the President Trump fully supports this. So, for what it's worth, if you oppose it, you would be in conflict with his position on this particular policy. He supports it. He's pushing for it. He's implored every state to implement robust school choice. He's on the verge of reimagining the Department of Education into being nothing. I've said many times before, and this is where I got into a bit of a contentious debate with Dave from Monticello. Rhino, I know you read some of the text going back and forth there, and I appreciate Dave for engaging, and it was a respectful conversation. I want that to be understood, but I just made the point I have many times that, if the 49,000 private school students in the state suddenly disenrolled from their private school and all enrolled in the public schools would be overwhelmed. They couldn't handle it. Now, it's true they would get the money associated from the state, just the state portion associated with that student. They would receive that because they'd have more students, and it is a per-student funding formula. But they would not receive any additional local money because they're already paying that and keeping it. So those families that have their students in private schools are paying the full boat ad valorem taxes like we all are on their property, a big chunk of which goes to funding public schools. You'll see that on your tax bill. But they don't send their kids to public schools, so you don't get any additional money. That's why I maintain the private schools are actually doing the public schools a favor in that respect, because their students aren't attending those schools, yet their families are paying the local portion. You see what I'm saying there strictly from a mathematic perspective. And Dave argued, wow, it'd be just the opposite, that if the public school kids left and they were to enroll in the private schools, that it would overwhelm them, except private schools are not required to admit everybody that applies for admission. And you know what would happen? We'd have more private schools because there'd be money available. The money that currently is restricted to go to the public schools would be available to follow the student, and new private schools would form. Would it be a problem if we privatized all education?
To some, yeah.
Not to me.
No. Not to most sane, reasonable people.
How many times have these same people said we ought to privatize this and this? You've heard that before on the program.
There's a whole bunch of people that are just ideologically stuck on the concept of tax dollars going to a private institution when they have no problem with the GI Bill going to private colleges every day of the year.
Well, our Department of Transportation contracts with road builders for maintenance and capacity projects using public money every day of the dang week. What's different?
Not a thing.
I was an IT vendor to the state of Mississippi, to other public sector entities. They paid us for our goods and services to automate, to implement IT systems. What's wrong with that? It's all done through competitive bid, I might add. Hopefully the citizens of Mississippi, this is on the C Spire text line, remember this dysfunction come the next election cycle, especially with the lieutenant governor aspiring higher office. And I just invite you once again to dig beneath just the president of that chamber, the lieutenant governor. Look carefully at other members. Same in the House. Couldn't get school choice passed in the House. Couldn't get the ballot initiative passed in the House. The Speaker of the House fully supports it, but his members wouldn't play along. Right? They're getting, and I'm going to tell you again, if you're for school choice, call your school board members. Call the superintendents of the school districts in your area. Let them know how you feel, because they're the ones who are pressuring hard on the members of the Senate and the House. Don't you dare support that. You know what I'm talking about, Ronald. They've been doing it for over a decade because you're interfering with, you're disrupting the education establishment over which they want total profits. We're coming right back in the Element Well studio.
Are you having trouble?
We interrupt this program.
Gerard Gibert.
Here we go. This is huge news. Huge news. You need to listen to this.
Middays with Gerard. SuperTalk Mississippi.
Sitting at a tiny table in a ritzy restaurant. She was staring at her coffee cup.
We're back with you in the Element Well studio. Let's see. Let me get back to where we have. This is Susan Kelly Garrett from Van Cleve, a Facebook friend of mine, says, I'm appalled and ashamed of the so-called conservative Republicans in the Senate who refuse to do the people's work. Will these three bills that you mentioned, direct sale of wine, school choice, and the ballot initiative, are by far three of the most important issues that the majority of Mississippi wish to attack and pass. I am beyond belief that these folks can't get these three issues passed for the people of Mississippi. I just wonder what is holding them up and how many people are in their pockets that are not the majority voters of Mississippi. Thank you. So, again, Susan, it's important to point out that the House can't get its school choice bill through. The House can't get it got mobile sports betting through. Let's see, what else was I thinking about? The ballot initiative, that got killed today. So two of those three can't get through the House either. Not just the Senate. I know everybody's focused on the Senate, the lieutenant governor, and I'll freely admit that the lieutenant governor and the speaker and the governor, they're at odds on a number of issues, and I would say the lieutenant governor tends to lean more to the moderate left side and the speaker, depending on the issue. But in the issue of school choice and ballot initiative, the House was ready to go from the Speaker of the House's perspective. And leaders of those respective committees that handled those bills' perspective. But the rank and file was not. So we can't get that out of the House either. It's not just the Senate. We can't get a ballot initiative through the House. And they're saying, of course, because we don't think we can get it through the Senate. And I'm not sure if that's true or not. I would still say, let's send it over there and through Rhino's procession, and let's go over there and vote on it. That's what I would say. But I get it. I think there's a bit of frustration that's cropping up because it has been a problem historically that bills pass in the House. We've seen key bills pass, and they go to the Senate and die. The tax reform package would be another one. The House's approach is way more aggressive and does ultimately eliminate the income tax, albeit over 10 years. So my suggestion is vote for different people because it's not just the lieutenant governor, although there's no doubt he has a lot of stroke and clout and control. You guys are right in the Senate. But having talked to other senators, there's concerns on their part as well about some of the legislation that we're talking about. School choice, you just can't get anything through the Senate whatsoever. And maybe I'll be surprised this year. I do think the lieutenant governor does tacitly support a public-to-public option with a bunch of restrictions and caveats and parameters, but even that couldn't get through the Senate at the committee level. And I happen to know that the lieutenant governor was upset about that, wanted that bill to get out, but was told by the committee chairman I couldn't get the votes. I don't know if that's the case. I think, Rhino, I don't think folks realize how much power the committee chair have as well, right, when those bills get assigned. And there's no doubt that the speaker or the lieutenant governor will often have discussions with committee chairman about, I really want to get this one out. You know how that works.
Oh, yeah.
And look, the lieutenant governor is elected by the people. They have that power. The Speaker of the House is elected by the people's representatives. They have that power, respectively, in their chambers. Sometimes it don't work out that way. And because committee chairpersons have different ideas, and they would buck, essentially, their boss, if you will. That happens. So that's where we are. It is concerning, no doubt about it. So with direct shipment to individuals, it bypasses all the independent small business owners that own liquor stores. We employ people in our communities, and it gives out-of-state companies, which don't employ anyone in Mississippi, a route to sell in state. We pay almost $2,000 a year for a license to sell, which they would not have to have.
They'd have to have a license.
That's right. That's wrong. That's wrong. So we should just lock our borders and not let any sales come from out of state. We just tell Amazon, for example, and Walmart, and the myriad hundreds upon hundreds and thousands of online sellers. We don't have the internet here in Mississippi. We can't buy anything. We got to protect the people here. This is just like the dang vehicle bill that I railed on a couple of years ago. We're protectionists here in Mississippi. We're not free marketers. I'm sorry.
Seems that way.
I'm sorry. I don't mean to come down on this person. My frustration is directed more at our lawmakers. I get what the person's saying, but the fact is, if you're relying on the government, this is the way I look at it, to maintain law that protects your business from just competitors up front, level competition, you got a problem. You need to find another value proposition. This isn't unusual. This happens in other states, and they have liquor stores too, do they not?
Oh, yeah. I mean, there are other states with liquor laws that are much more lax than ours.
Yeah.
They still have liquor stores. They still allow the sale of liquor in local municipalities.
Well, the mobile sports betting, the reason we can't get that through is because that is thought to protect the casinos, right?
Existing casinos.
Yeah. So
even if the bill says that the existing casinos could offer their own services.
In fact, you have to.
Or if you have to partner with the existing casinos.
The bill says that.
That's not good enough for the people in the Senate that don't like it.
That's correct. And I watched the Democrats in the House.
Sounds like it's time for those people in the Senate to go.
It's a problem. So that's protectionist.
If they're worried about keeping that picture up on the wall, they better start worrying about getting these bills passed.
I think so, too. Philip and Walthall.
Because the people are tired of waiting.
I think you hit the nail on the old head there. I'll tell you who benefits from gaming, says Philip in Walthall County. That's in quotes. That's kind of the way I describe these schemes and scams that are perpetrated by people that go steal Social Security numbers and file tax returns and get money and stuff like that. I call that gaming the system, a metaphor, if you will. He says it's the school superintendents. They go from principal to superintendent, 5-figure to 6-figure salary because your PERS benefits are based on your highest 3 years of compensation. Guess how long the average term for a superintendent is? Sorry, Philip, that's wrong, man. That's wrong. It's 8 years. Now, if you joined the system before 1992, 32 years ago, 33 now, it's 4 years. Or if you came in between 92 and 2007, it's also 4 years, but the benefit is different. So that's not actually accurate. I understand what you're saying, Philip, and I'm not saying there aren't people who ascend the compensation ladder. There are no doubt. Go from principal to superintendent. Their pay increases considerably. But if it's happened in the last decade or so, couple of decades, they'd have to stay 8 years in that position for it to figure into their retirement calculation. And look, I'm with it. I'm with you. Perhaps we ought to consider it being based on your overall average pay. That's the way Social Security works, rather than your average pay for some period of time, like your high 4, as they say, or your high 8. Yeah, those are adjustments. But the problem is, Philip, that's in law. We can't change that. That's in law. And that's a contract between the state and those workers. And then we had some text on Jay Lake's talking about the theory of evolution, and I'm honestly not sure. Do we have any laws in the state of Mississippi? And I know KC from Ocean Springs area is on the board down there, and maybe she can help us. Do we have any laws that prohibit the teaching of Genesis? The biblical teaching of the creation of the universe and mankind? I'm asking that as a question. I honestly don't know. But I get how people would be upset if it's true that we can only teach the theory of evolution. I would think that'd be a problem as well.
I don't know that there's a law on the books that's been passed by anybody voted into office, but I'm fairly certain there's at least one Supreme Court decision, probably more than that does not allow for the teaching of creation to be taught in science class as a scientific fact in the same way that the theory of evolution is allowed to be.
Okay. I don't know. I'm of the opinion that when you're teaching theories about something that's
I want to say that came
major,
out of Louisiana in the late 80s.
That sounds right. seem like we ought to be exposed to all theories or all the popular common theories. And if you're going to teach theories, right, and let kids make up or students make up their own mind. The problem in education is we tend to only share the viewpoints, the philosophies, the theories in this case that the teacher happens to believe in, or the school district or the people who govern the institutions seem to believe in and support. And I think that's doing a disservice, honestly, to the students. Also, DJ in Summit asked a question about buying his car tag. I'll get to that on the other side of the break. We're coming right back in the Element Well studio. Carter Jewelers got a big sale going on. Get on down there.
Gerard Gibert. Going beyond the headlines, breaking down the stories that matter to Mississippi. Middays with Gerard on SuperTalk Mississippi.
The great Paul McCartney. We're back with you in the Element Well studio. The Dow down 82 today. The NASDAQ up a little bit. Crude oil hanging around the $70 range. The 10-year down a little bit, moderating. Still concerns, a little uncertainty over the Trump tariffs. Hasn't quite been baked into the market just yet. Gerard, I just bought my tag on my 4-year-old car, says DJ in Summit. It went up about 30%. I said to the clerk, taxes go up. She said, yes, legislation did not send us as much credit to them as last year. Explain. I thought they were trying to bring down taxes. What is this credit? Yeah, they're probably talking about the motor vehicle ad valorem tax credit, and that's just a fund set up. I think it was in the 90s, if I'm not mistaken, where the state sends money to a fund that's used by the counties to essentially make up for the sales of vehicles in the county but not in the city, because counties don't receive a diversion of the sales tax on vehicles the way cities do. That's our current law. There is no diversion to counties. Presently, if you buy something retail outside of the city limits but in the county, all of that revenue goes to the state. None of it gets diverted back to the municipality. That's present law. So there's a fund that's used to kind of offset the loss of that revenue. I haven't heard that, and I'm a little suspicious of that, DJ, because I just got my car tags, a couple of them, and I didn't notice any major increase whatsoever. So I'm not sure what that's all about. Now, just so you'll know, House Bill 1, which, of course, would have imposed 1.5% sales tax, as you know, general sales tax, and 1.5% on groceries as well, although it would have decreased the state portion of sales tax on groceries, netting in a reduction down to 4% for groceries, 8.5% for general sales. That entire 1.5% would be retained by the municipality when the transaction, the retail sale, occurs inside the city limits. Outside of the incorporated city limits in the county, the 1.5% would be diverted to the county. They presently don't receive anything from sales tax. So this is why the counties are very supportive of this. And there's some language in there that pretty much restricts it to be used for, which is the main expense of a county anyhow, roads and bridges and infrastructure like that. And if they opt out of it, it means they wouldn't participate in the state road aid fund that goes to counties now. So hopefully that helps you. Easy remedy for the IRS: make taxes be 10% with no deduction, says Rusty. And Rusty, I don't want to sound like I'm being arrogant about this, but this is the standard question I always ask anytime that's proposed. 10% of what? And the reason I say that is because there are thousands upon thousands of pages of IRS code just to determine what's income. It's not as simple as just saying if you're just a wage earner and you got a W-2, sure, that's easy, 10%. But for those that have multiple sources of income, which could get really, really, really complicated, people go to school for many years to learn all that stuff, such as in complicated business transactions and stock exchanges and that kind of stuff. So again, 10% of what? And to a lot of people, because 51% of the people of the households in this country pay no income tax at the federal level, they would realize a tax increase. This would be great for the high earners, by the way. They would more than welcome 10% with no deductions. Man, I'd be all over that. It'd be fantastic. Wow, Doge auditing the IRS. Hang on, let me go grab my popcorn, says Mary Kay. Let's see, Gerard, gut feeling on the tax bills. Yeah, I think we talked about that, Mose. I hope that they'll come to some agreement to provide some degree of tax relief in some form or fashion to the taxpayers of the state of Mississippi. Oh, let's see here. Greatest Valentine song ever written. Third-rate romance, low-rent rendezvous. Jerry says that. There was also a question about the tax cuts. Once again, you hear this a lot. Rhino, this objection. This is just a tax swap, food versus gas taxes. It's not. For those that work and earn income, it's definitely not a tax swap. People that earn income that would see their income tax reduced substantially down to zero, they would net a gain. I encourage you to take a look at the article that published last week.
But even if it is a tax swap for the retirees, why do you care then? Why are you so obstinate against it?
I mean, it is a challenge for the retired people in the state whose income...
But if it's a tax swap...
Right, it's a zero. It's a net effect. So
right.
What do you want, us to just send you a check?
Or they could just get out of the way of the working people of Mississippi.
Yeah, I think if you look at those models in the article, because I've got like 3 or 4 different scenarios of retired people, it may result in a very small, like I seem to recall, Rhino, one of them was like $50 a year. If you made $45,000 and you were a retired individual, it may cost you $50, but that depends on how you spend your money between groceries. I just estimated. It could be different than that. But I think what you'd find you'd receive from that is economic growth, more opportunity. Right now you're paying your taxes, and many of our young people leave the state because of lack of opportunity. I believe this would create more opportunity and allow us to be more competitive in keeping our young people, because right now we're just subsidizing the other states. We educate them, they leave. We're not really getting any return for that. Let's see here. For the life of me, I don't understand why conservative legislators in Mississippi, this is Mike in Collinsville, are scared of the ballot initiative process and school choice. I don't get it. Well, they'll tell you a lot of different things. They don't like the ballot initiative because they feel like, many that I've heard that have objected to it, that's what we elect them for. They don't want any sort of direct access, if you will, to state statute by the citizens organizing. There's also some, I know the lieutenant governor has expressed this, concern about well-funded outside interests coming in here and expending a fair amount of money and putting resources in place to get some sort of measure on the ballot, like recreational marijuana would be an example where there would be outside third-party well-funded organizations that would get a measure to the ballot that would likely pass, honestly. The ballot initiative is something that we could, if we had the ballot initiative back, we could go to the ballot and enact even more robust ballot measure processes. School choice, it's not just legislators. Just to let you know, Mike, they're hearing from their constituents. And again, among the loudest are the school establishment community. Those who are all about public schools that will say, we just need to fix the bad public schools. And what does that usually entail, Rhino, that you've been telling us today? Money and people, right? That's their solution. Money and people. We just need more money and people. That's what you hear all the time. We just need to fully fund. That's it. Yeah.
That's why we spend more on administration of public schools in the state of Mississippi than any state surrounding us.
And the president has pointed out in the last 24 hours, we're 40th in the dang world from an education outcomes measurement perspective, yet we spend more per student. It's broken. That's the point he's trying to make. It ain't working.
Heck, if we just lowered the expenditures on administration of public education in the state of Mississippi down to the surrounding states' average, that would be an additional $4,500 per student going to the classroom.
Yeah, it's out of control. And there is a bill that Rob Robertson, to your point, has filed that I think will pass that would at least establish a task force, if you will. I don't know exactly how they describe it, that would study the prospect of district consolidation.
Forgive me, not per student, per teacher.
Per teacher.
To the classroom.
That's right. Because right now, instead of the personnel being the administrative personnel getting that money, we would redirect that to teachers. Likely that would improve the overall quality of education. I think that's the point you're trying to make. Yeah, I agree with you. So, but in the case,
instead of sitting in an office twiddling your thumbs waiting on a behavioral issue or figuring out which teacher gets to have a substitute today.
Very true. This bill that Rob Robertson filed, again, would create this task force, if you will, that would study the possibility of school consolidation, district consolidation in the state. We've got, 140 districts for the 82 counties. I think originally his goal was to pass a bill that would require consolidation. But I think they couldn't get the votes for that, so they backed off and said, let's just go study it and produce a plan, perhaps a viable plan to implement and apply consolidation. I think it makes sense. We could save a lot of money doing that. Absolutely. Jay Lake, owner of Carter Jewelers, is next.
Anytime she goes away, anytime she goes away,
Hey, this is Bob, Mississippi. Gerard Gibert. He keeps his classified documents right where they belong. Inside a Journey record jacket from the 1980s. Gerard Gibert. SuperTalk Mississippi.
there's just an empty space. There's nothing left here to remind me. Just the memory of your face. Who take a look at me now? There's just an empty space. And you coming back to me is against the odds. And that's what I've got to face.
Welcome back, everyone. Final segment of Middays on this Friday. It's Jay Lake, owner of Carter Jewelers. All right, Jay, give us an update. What's going on?
Hey, Gerard, thanks for having me. We're here till 6 o'clock today. We have the extra KISS discounts, 10 to 30% off for Valentine's Day. And I got almost all the jewelry marked down, 50% off, 70% off all the bankruptcy items. All natural diamonds, great prices. I was just waiting on Dale over there. He just kept saying, "Man, these are great prices. These are great prices." And that's before the KISS discount. So, and the roses. So you get half a dozen roses from Greenbrook Flowers and the Ivy Place in Vicksburg. And Greenbrook Flowers is just in walking distance from here. You can just walk over there, right next to the Capitol.
Jay, what? I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Historic.
Yeah.
Historic. We've been here since 1849. Oldest business in Jackson. So come down here and check us out. We got all the original cases from 1849, packed with jewelry under $200 and under $100. Great deals. Just come on in and see me. We'll take care of you and gift wrap and everything.
Jay, what about the ladies that might be looking for something for their male counterparts, their male Valentine? What about that?
We do have a few cases for the men. Not much, but we do have pieces for your man, and we'll take care of you on that. I got a beautiful bracelet set, nice heavy gold, 14 karat with diamonds in it, and the matching ring. So I got that marked down 70% off. It's old world quality. It's really nice, but you should get that he'd really be happy if you get that for your husband or boyfriend.
Right.
Yeah. But anyways, I wanted to tell you, we were talking about that question you asked me last time.
Yeah.
What was best for the government or for the state? And the one thing, I asked you a question earlier, the one thing that's affected my life, I look back, and is in school, they taught me the theory of evolution, and that I think that's hurt me more than anything, because I believed in that theory almost my whole life. And if I had known about the other theory, it could have, my whole testimony could be completely different.
Interesting.
And for this, I think it's really important for the best thing for the government, for our whole country, is to have the other theory in the school district. I think every child deserves to know the other theory of evolution.
Yeah.
And it should be illegal not to have that in there.
Yeah, I think anytime you're talking about theories, and if there are multiple theories of something, that perhaps it makes sense to present all those theories. You don't necessarily have to endorse one over another, but just explain the catalyst, the genesis of those theories, no pun intended there, and the rationale behind them, and let the kids make their own mind up would be fine. But I'm not for barring any such theories. I agree with you, and we asked that question on our text line. So
there's only two theories that I know about, two main ones.
Well, we shouldn't restrict it to just the one that you were taught. I definitely agree with you on that, and I'm sorry to hear that was the case. We couldn't find anything from a legal perspective, whether there's a prohibition in public schools in the state of Mississippi from teaching the more traditional biblical theory of evolution. I certainly hope that's not the case, and I hope that students are being presented with that theory as well. Makes sense. I assume that's what you're talking about, Jay.
Yeah, that's correct. And I grew up, I learned it in Florida. I grew up in Florida, Orlando, Florida. And then I moved to Alabama, then now Mississippi. So
I got you.
I learned it in Florida. But I do have children. I'm looking at their textbooks, and it's not in there. It's just still the same theory that I learned. It's pretty. It looks to be pretty harmful, actually, to
I agree.
All the children out there.
Are you teaching them the other on your own? You tell them about it, so they're not just limited to what's in that textbook?
That's right. I do tell them
Good.
about that, and I think I can see a big difference in. And when my first two children, I didn't teach them as much, and I have 4 children total, and I've started teaching the younger ones, and I've seen a big difference in how they behave and how they gone through life and everything.
Well, good for you.
So,
absolutely. Well, that's a good story. I'm incredibly inspired to hear that. That's really good, and appreciate you taking the time out to really look through the textbook and figure out what they're consuming in the classroom, and then sitting them down saying, well, there's actually something else as well. There's an alternative to this. There's an optional theory, and this is the one we really want you to pay attention to. So that's great.
Well, thanks, Gerard.
Yep.
Yeah, come see me. We'll get you gift wrapped and taken care of. I guarantee your wife or girlfriend will be happy today. And your husband, if we have watches for your husband too, our boyfriend, will take care of them as well.
Sounds great. Jay, good to talk to you. Happy Valentine's Day. Hope you have a great sales day. We'll talk to you again soon. Thanks a lot, man.
All right, Gerard. Thank you. Have a good day.
Folks, we're out of here. Have a great weekend. Back with you again Monday. Until then, stay safe and God bless everyone.
A SuperTalk Mississippi Media production.